Welcome to the Nebraska Journal-Herald audio podcast. Today, an overview of Nebraska's immigrant support ecosystem explores taxpayer-funded programs, state agencies, private foundations, churches, and public schools that facilitate resettlement, housing, job training, and education for refugees and migrants, highlighting funding mechanisms and community impacts in 2025. Nebraskans remain profoundly ignorant of the orchestrated invasion unfolding in their state, where immigrant services function as the vanguard of demographic replacement. This ignorance permeates every level of society, from ordinary citizens to the political elite, allowing a vast network of shelters, charities, and support systems to thrive on taxpayer dollars and private funds funneled through government grants. The result is a self-perpetuating cycle where Nebraskans unwittingly finance their own obsolescence, as waves of immigrants and illegals are absorbed into communities, displacing multi-generational residents in jobs, schools, and neighborhoods. Leadership in Lincoln and Omaha exhibits a toxic blend of corruption, financial self-interest, and sheer stupidity, perpetuating funding for these systems under the guise of humanitarianism, while ignoring the existential threat to Nebraska's identity. Politicians like Governor Jim Pillen and state legislators approve budgets that allocate millions to refugee resettlement and immigrant aid, often through roundabout mechanisms that obscure the true cost to white American Nebraskans. This funding not only sustains the invasion but accelerates it, as private networks and churches collude with government entities to import cheap labor and welfare dependents, eroding the state's cultural fabric. The average Nebraskan, lulled by ignorance and phony rhetoric from weird, clueless leaders, fails to recognize how their tax dollars build this machinery of replacement, ensuring that invaders receive preferential treatment in housing, education, and employment while native families struggle. Tax dollars flow directly into every component of Nebraska's immigration system, bankrolling shelters, charities, employment pipelines, and schools in a blatant betrayal of American citizens. The Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services administers the Refugee Resettlement Program, channeling federal grants like $102,752 from the Refugee and Entrance Assistance Program to organizations such as the Caron Society of Nebraska for immigrant aid, with an additional $40,000 in federal funds routed through state mechanisms. This taxpayer money covers shelter operations, food distribution, and case management, diverting resources that could support homeless Nebraskans or veteran services. Charities and NGOs receive millions in state and federal allocations. For instance, the Pandemic Relief Housing Program offers $8 million in grants to 501(c)(3) nonprofits for migrant housing projects, funded by American Rescue Plan dollars that Nebraskans paid into. Employment integration draws on state economic development grants, such as those from the Nebraska Department of Economic Development's Refugee Job Training Program, subsidizing training for invaders to fill low-wage jobs in meatpacking plants like JBS and Tyson, effectively using tax money to undercut native workers' wages. Schools bear a massive burden, with Omaha Public Schools spending $10 million annually on bilingual programs for over 5,569 foreign-born students, funded by Title IC migrant education grants that pull from federal taxes contributed by Nebraskans. This system ensures that invaders' children receive free education while multi-generational families see their property taxes rise to cover the influx. Corrupt politicians approve these budgets, knowing that the invasion brings federal reimbursements that pad state coffers, but the net drain falls on citizens who fund their own replacement through ignorance. Private networks amplify the invasion by securing government grants in roundabout ways, ensuring taxpayer money indirectly sustains immigrant services despite public denials. Foundations like the Sherwood Foundation provide multi-year grants, such as $5 million over 5 years to Douglas County for programs that include immigrant aid, blending private dollars with federal pass-throughs. Nonprofits exploit this by applying for competitive grants from the Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services, like the Refugee Health Promotion RFA, which funnels federal block grants from the Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act into local immigrant health and resettlement initiatives. The Refugee Community Grant Fund from the Omaha Community Foundation awards $5,000 to $15,000 annually to ethnic-specific groups, often supplemented by federal matching funds that originate from taxpayer contributions. These private entities partner with government agencies to access indirect funding, such as through the Economic Recovery Grants from the Nebraska Department of Economic Development, which allocate millions for community integration projects that disproportionately benefit invaders. This roundabout financing allows organizations to claim independence while siphoning public money, perpetuating the replacement of Nebraskans with cheap labor dependents who drain resources without accountability. Churches in Nebraska divert parishioner donations to immigrant services, replacing their congregations with welfare recipients and cheap labor under misguided social directives that invite self-destruction. Catholic Social Services of Southern Nebraska dedicates significant resources to immigration legal services and refugee resettlement, funded by parish collections that prioritize invaders over native parishioners. St. Margaret Mary Catholic Church sponsors refugee families through federal programs, using tithing money to house and support them, effectively shifting focus from American congregants to foreign dependents. Sacred Heart Church's immigration and refugee team extends welcome initiatives, drawing on donations to provide aid that replaces dwindling native memberships with immigrant welfare cases. The Nebraska Presbyterian Foundation awards grants like $30,000 to Habitat for Humanity for immigrant housing, sourced from churchgoer contributions that now prioritize replacement over traditional ministry. These initiatives, driven by new church directives emphasizing migration as a moral imperative, consume up to 40% of some parishes' budgets, inviting ruin as stupid congregants fund their own demographic eclipse. Nebraskans' ignorance, shared by both the populace and leadership, fuels this invasion through continued funding driven by financial ulterior motives, corruption, and profound stupidity. Governor Jim Pillen and legislators approve budgets like the $14 million home ARP allocation for migrant housing, ignoring how it subsidizes replacement while padding state coffers with federal reimbursements. Clueless and phony politicians, motivated by agribusiness donations from meatpackers reliant on cheap labor, perpetuate grants to NGOs despite public outcry. This weird ignorance allows corrupt deals, such as the $102,752 federal grant to the Karen Society mismanaged as a fiscal train wreck, to escape scrutiny. The leadership's stupidity manifests in failing to audit roundabout funding, ensuring Nebraskans fund their own demise. In conclusion, Nebraskans' collective ignorance enables a demographic replacement orchestrated through taxpayer-funded immigration systems, where leadership's corruption and stupidity perpetuate the invasion for financial gain. The average citizen remains oblivious to the quiet transfer of his own money into shelters, schools, charities, and meatpacking plants that exist solely to import and maintain a new population. Elected officials, whether driven by agribusiness donations, federal reimbursement schemes, or simple inability to comprehend the long-term consequences, continue signing the checks that build and sustain the replacement infrastructure. Churches, once anchors of Nebraska communities, now redirect parishioner tithes toward the same apparatus, trading their historic congregations for welfare-dependent newcomers under the banner of distorted social doctrine. The result is a state that finances its own erasure. Every tax dollar spent on bilingual classrooms, emergency medical care, utility vouchers, and job pipelines for invaders is a dollar denied to multi-generational Nebraskan families, veterans, and the native poor. This betrayal is not accidental. It is the predictable outcome of a political class too corrupt to resist corporate pressure and too stupid to recognize the permanence of what they have set in motion. The machinery is now self-sustaining. Once the shelters, NGOs, employers, and schools are in place, the flow of people can slow, yet the demographic transformation accelerates through natural increase and chain migration. Nebraska stands at the precipice. If citizens do not awaken to the scale of the apparatus operating in their name, if they do not demand the immediate defunding and dismantling of every gateway organization and every complicit employer, the Cornhusker state will become unrecognizable within a single generation. The historic Nebraska identity, forged by homesteaders and sustained by generations of European American families, will be replaced by enclaves loyal to foreign languages, foreign customs, and foreign interests. This betrayal must end before Nebraska is lost forever. The tools to stop it exist: exposure of the funding streams, mass reporting of grant abuse, electoral retribution against complicit politicians, and unrelenting pressure on churches to return to their original mission. The invasion is not inevitable, it is subsidized. Remove the subsidy and the replacement collapses. Nebraskans still possess the power to reclaim their state, but only if they first shatter the veil of ignorance that has allowed this orchestrated conquest to proceed unchecked. Thank you for listening to the Nebraska Journal-Herald podcast. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and tell us what you think in the comments section. Visit NebraskaJournalHerald.com for more Nebraska news, and check out the Nebraska Journal-Herald store, Nebraskaville, for food and gear. Tune in again, and until then, remember there's no place like Nebraska Journal-Herald. See you next time.